Friday the 13th was released on May 9th, 1980. This is the 42nd anniversary of this film. This movie created an entire media franchise, including video games, 12 movies including the crossover Freddy vs. Jason, and even promised a final chapter and the final Friday. But like Jason Voorhees himself, you can't keep a good horror franchise down. Friday the 13th was made with a $550,000 budget and grossed $59.8 million at the box office. This is one of the first independent films of this type to be picked up by a major studio. Sean S. Cunningham and Victor Miller said, "Hey, Halloween made a lot of money, let's rip it off." This is a direct quote from Cunningham himself. Halloween, Psycho, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and even Black Christmas might have helped create the slasher genre, but I think Friday the 13th perfected it, and Friday the 13th definitely started the slasher craze of the early 80s. Friday the 13th has something they don't. Special makeup effects from wizard Tom Savini. I like how Savini explains effects. He says they are like magic tricks that people want to see, and they are amazed by that. Either a knife to the throat or an axe to the head, or even an arrow going through young Kevin Bacon's neck. Tom Savini is the man, and his effects still look real today. This also has an amazing score from Harry Manfredini. You could tell he was definitely inspired by the Psycho theme, but it definitely works for this movie. He said he only played music when the killer was around, so once the music kicked in, you know there is a threat. They did the same thing with the shark and the music in Jaws. Manfredini went on to score the first 8 films in the franchise. The story, of course, is basically suspense, kill, suspense, kill. But I also love the whodunit aspect of this film that the sequels don't have because we already know it's Jason. This also had a great marketing campaign. Heck, the trailer is just numbers counting kills, but it's perfect because that's what the movie is. We watch it mainly to see some great kills with suspense built in between. Like I said, this is a very simple story. It is a slasher, but I think it starts great. A couple sneaking to go have sex, and you have some POV shots from the killer, and you freeze frame on the victims, and you get the title Friday the 13th Smashing Through Glass. Then you get a very small town feeling of this girl that is trying to get to Camp Crystal Lake. She comes across one of my favorite characters of the franchise, Gone Too Soon, Crazy Ralph, who tries to warn her. Of course, he is the big red herring of the film. Then you get to spend a lot of time at the camp, and you kind of really get to know the characters, including our final girl, Alice. Alice is a pretty good final girl. She is not my favorite final girl of the series, but I think when she has to step up to the plate and get the job done, she definitely does. So I really like Adrienne King as Alice. You can't talk about any film in this franchise without talking about your favorite kills. My favorite kill actually is the 1-2 punch kills of Kevin Bacon's Jack and his girlfriend Marcy. They're having sex and the camera pans up and reveals a dead body on the top bunk. I think this is genius because you now are concentrating on the top bunk and think the killer might be up there with the body. So Marcy goes off by herself. Don't you watch scary movies? Never split up. Kevin Bacon's Jack lights up a joint, and out of nowhere a hand comes out from underneath the bed and grabs his head, and an arrow goes through his neck, swirling back and forth with blood pumping right out. Such an awesome kill and a great jump scare because you never would have thought anybody would be underneath the bed. Then you get some suspense with Marcy in the bathroom when she hears a noise and you see the shadow of an axe rise up, and you get a quick shot of an axe going right into her face. An amazing shot. It's a very quick kill, but with all the build up and the great effect from Savini, it works so well. Since I talked about some of my favorite kills, now we gotta talk about the killer. Ghostface asked Casey Becker in the opening of Scream, name the killer in Friday the 13th, and of course he says Jason, but we should all know by now it's his mother, Pamela Voorhees, played to perfection by Betsy Palmer.
Name the killer in Friday the 13th.
Jason!
I'm sorry, that's the wrong answer. Then you should know Jason's mother, Mrs. Voorhees, was the original killer. Jason didn't show up until the sequel.
I love that Betsy Palmer said she only did this film because she needed cash for a car at this moment. She said, well, no one is going to see this piece of crap, so I should just do it. Even though she felt that way when she made the movie, she learned to embrace the role and the franchise. She realized how great horror fans are, and she did many horror conventions and interviews talking about Friday the 13th until her death in 2015. When Pamela shows up in the film, the audience probably had no clue she was the killer because she was a motherly figure. She was there to help, right? Once she started talking about counselors not paying attention and a young boy drowning her, you knew, oh wait, she is the killer. Palmer gives a great performance and the roles were reversed from Psycho. Pamela thought Jason wanted her to kill all the camp counselors for him for letting him drown. Even acting as Jason. Kill her, mommy, kill her. This movie definitely got the formula from Halloween, but you get a great camp setting and awesome kills along the way. You even have a great atmosphere, even rain throughout the second act, and you get Alice coming across all the dead bodies in the third act just like Jamie Lee in Halloween. But like how it copied Halloween, it also took from another great 70s film, Carrie. In Carrie, you get a great dream sequence of a hand popping out of a grave and scaring the crap out of everyone. They do the same thing once Alice has her kick-ass fight with Pamela Voorhees and chops her head off with a machete, and you get some great toothpicks and hairy man hands coming up into frame, which adds to the charm of the effect. She is lying in a canoe floating along with beautiful music, and it goes on and on and on. So you have to think, well, the movie is over, and then BAM! Jason comes out of the lake with Savini's grotesque effects and pulls Alice under the water. I wish I could have seen this in theaters in 1980. I bet the crowd crapped themselves. Such a great final scare end moment for this film, and I think it definitely adds to the legacy of it. I love how it's played as a dream sequence, and you're not sure if it was real or not. But Alice asks, "Where's the boy?" And the cop replied, "We didn't find any boy." And she says, "Well, then he's still there." I think this ending is why this became a series and why Jason showed up in the sequel. Friday the 13th is one of my favorite slashers of all time. It definitely was inspired by other films, but that doesn't take away from the legacy and also Betsy Palmer as Pamela. Jason Voorhees is an icon, but Pamela Voorhees is an icon too. With the camp setting and some awesome kills from Savini, as well as the amazing Psycho-inspired score from Manfredini, as well as this awesome shock ending that really sets up the sequel, it makes Friday the 13th a classic. If you love slashers, you probably love Friday the 13th. So come with me in part 2, where Jason shows up in the sequel and he looks suspiciously like the Phantom from The Town That Dreaded Sundown. See you guys for Friday the 13th part 2.